College, Chicago, and I'm a journalism major.
So, Alexandra, do you recycle?
I do.
Is recycling something that you have always done, or is it a personal choice?
It's something I've always done. My dad always recycled. He always guilt tripped my sister and I into recycling whenever we were too lazy to throw away a plastic bag or something. My mom actually doesn't recycle as much as I do, so now that role is sort of reversed where I'm on her butt to start recycling and stuff like that.
So, why is recycling something that's important to you?
Well, it's important to me because just flat out I'm a human and I'm living on this planet, so why wouldn't I care about the environment I live in?
Where do you think education from recycling needs to come from, and whose responsibility is it?
Schools should also teach kids about that as part of their basic science courses, because if they're learning about evolution in the environment and how volcanoes and earthquakes are created, then they should learn about how those things are being destroyed through the malpractices of human life now.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult do you think recycling is, and why?
I think when you just basic recycling, use a milk jug, put it in a bin, bring it out to the recycling place, it's really not that difficult, maybe 1. But I think it's important that once you've mastered that, you don't just stop there, you start recycling in other ways. So reducing the amount of water you use, maybe filling up a sink full of water and just using that to wash dishes throughout the day so you're not constantly wasting water, or turning off the lights in your apartment when you're not in a room. And that can get more difficult because it requires us to change our lifestyle, but I think it's important all the same.
So, what would you tell someone who doesn't recycle?
Someone who doesn't recycle, I'd probably ask them why, and I think largely their answer would be that they're too lazy to. And to that, I say that if you make it a priority, and you should make it a priority, then there are ways of getting around being lazy to do that. So if you're just too lazy to put a bunch of recyclables in a bag and bring it down to a recycle bin, then have a designated bin in your apartment and just allow it to accumulate over a month. That way you only have to do it once a month. There are ways getting around it, and it's so important that you should find priorities for being more contributive to an eco-friendly sustainability plan.
My name is Catherine Savage. I'm a senior at Columbia College, and my major is journalism.
So, Catherine, do you recycle?
I do not.
And why is that?
Mainly because honestly, it comes down to pure laziness.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult do you think recycling is, and why?
I would say, for me personally, it's like a 5 because, again, like I said, it's pure laziness. And also, like, trying to figure out what can be recycled, what can't be. I always am, like, going to throw, like, a coffee cup in, and I'm like, oh, can I recycle this? I don't really know, so.
Where do you think education about recycling needs to come from, and whose responsibility is it?
I think it should come from, like anything else, schools. I think you should definitely learn about it in your science classes. Like, I don't really remember ever learning, like, too deep into it other than, like, reduce, reuse, recycle. I think something important would be, like, telling us what can and can't be recycled, and, like, what are some good tips on how to recycle. So I think it should come from, like, your teachers and stuff like that. But I also think, like, as a parent, that should be something you're telling your kids. My parents, like, don't have that much emphasis on recycling, so I think that's why it's, like, not high on my priority list. So I think teachers and parents definitely.
So the two of you have very different views on something, that being recycling. So Catherine, as someone who does not recycle, what is something you would like to say to Alexandra, who does recycle?
I would just like to get, like, tips on maybe how you think I should recycle, because, like, the reason I don't do it is because I'm lazy, basically. So I think, like, tips and specifically on, like, what to recycle too, what can and can't.
As for like what to recycle, you can go, and what I do is I have a printout of everything you can recycle, and then I just have it inside my cupboard. So you can just look at that. You don't even have to pull out your phone. You just open a cupboard and look. And then a lot of times it'll say recycle on it. So just look at that. And then some other tips on recycling. It's like a trendy thing now. It's called the zero waste movement. So there's stuff on Instagram and there's like brands and stuff that make it trendy to recycle, which kind of inclines people to recycle more. So if it's something that you really want to get into, there's a whole space where you can.
So I had you guys take that little quiz to see your thoughts on what you thought could be recycled or not in terms of simple house recycling. Now, Alexandra, you checked off 9 things on the list, and Catherine, you checked off 11. And I'm here to tell you both that none of the things on the list could be recycled.
Shut up!
While some of these things can be recycled, they cannot be thrown into the average recycling bin that is on residential properties. So with all of that being said, I think the general consensus here is we need more education. And that education needs to come, because even for those who do know a lot about recycling and do pride themselves on working hard towards recycling and bettering the environment, there's still a lack of education. Chicago's recycling program is not as strong as it should be. By only picking up recycling 2 times per month and only providing the residents 1 general recycling bin in addition to a trash bin, the city is doing its citizens a disservice. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Los Angeles has one of the strongest recycling programs in the United States. By offering their citizens a larger variety of bins instead of just 2, they ease the confusion that often comes with recycling and choose to rather teach the simplicity. They separate the recycling between 2 bins instead. They offer a traditional residential recycling bin, as Chicago does, but also another for other recyclable waste such as fruit and vegetables or wood. The strength of the Los Angeles recycling program is something to admire, and we collectively take a stand that Chicago needs to up its recycling game to become a more green city.